Hello, I'm Kenneth, and this is Common Hawthorne. Welcome to my channel, or welcome back. I hope you have some tea handy because I am going to answer the 8 questions in Katey Flowers' No Disclaimers tag. First question, what trends or tropes in tarot annoy me the most? Anti-masculine decks is mostly it. Decks where the creator's personal history distorts specific cards into being entirely negative or entirely positive. It often happens around the Emperor card, and those like a deck that makes the Emperor into something that is inherently evil, rather than something that is could be evil, but could be order, could be routine. I don't, that really bothers me when that is done to a deck. The other trend in tarot that I don't like is decks that are advertised as being inclusive, but that I don't actually see myself in. Sometimes that's because they're anti-masculine. Sometimes it's because in an effort to show people who are underrepresented in most tarot decks, there's simply not enough room in a limited number of cards to include a cis white fat older man. But there are inclusive decks that, for instance, have no older people and no fat people. And so there might be lots of people of color. There could be people of different genders and sexualities, but it's not actually inclusive. It might have people who use a wheelchair or depict somebody with a cane, but doesn't show anybody old, doesn't show anybody fat. And I don't like that. It's fine. It's great that there are decks that represent entirely different communities of people. That's not what bothers me. Goddess decks don't bother me. Feminist decks that say this, it's all women, don't bother me. It's specifically when a deck is promoted as being inclusive, that it may be increasing the inclusivity of the tarot community as a whole or the universe of tarot decks, but if the deck itself, in fact, does not include everyone, then it's not an inclusive deck, even though it may be a valuable corrective. I am disclaiming, aren't I? I'm going to stop doing that. What deck do I feel is overrated? The Spirit Keeper's Tarot. Done. What are my least favorite decks I've seen since joining TarotTube? Well, there are a lot. Just based on aesthetics. And so I'm not going to name any. What is one card that has ruined a deck for me? In the Tarot of Divine Masculine, the Four of Cups really ruined the deck. And there are some other cards that, knowing what the original art was and then seeing the published art, that those cards also worked to ruin that deck for me. And I bought the deck, and so it was when I got the deck that then I realized, oh, I don't actually want to use it. A deck that I would buy, but have not, because of a specific card, is the Tarot del Toro, based on the work of Guillermo del Toro, the filmmaker, and the Hanged card. I can't deal with it. It just ruined the deck for me. Which out-of-print deck do I wish was still in print? Well, it's like I've got mine. There are 2 out-of-print decks, although one might be coming back in. I've heard rumors. But I managed to pay through the nose for the Tarot of Delphi and for the Tarot of Durer. Tarot of Delphi is independent deck. Tarot of Durer was just a Lo Scarabeo deck, but it happens to be out of print. But then there's a question coming up that reveals that there is a deck that I like, that I have, that is currently out of print, and I will mention it then. What are some of my tarot and TarotTube pet peeves? Hour and a half long live TarotTube. It's like, even if I watch it at double speed, that's 45 minutes. I don't want to spend 45 minutes watching somebody ramble, or watching somebody ramble with someone else, or relate somehow to the commenters that I may or may not know, that they may or may not refer to by their real name rather than their channel name. And I like a focused video. I like shorter videos. I do watch almost everything at double speed, and so those lives just don't do it. Non-TarotTube pet peeve is the Instagram posts complaining about imposters. It's like, it sucks. Instagram sucks. It's too bad that there are gullible people who fall for it. If I am following you, that's not what I'm there for. I don't want to hear you talking about how you have yet another imposter who I should somehow feel responsible for reporting, even though nothing will happen to it. It's like, it happens, it's there, it's a broken system, move on. What are some decks that I feel should have more recognition? Jess Rollar's decks. And that's where we come to the Squid Cake Marseille, which I love. It's adorable, and I have a video comparing the Squid Cake and the Marshmallow Marseille. And anyway, the Squid Cake is out of print, and I think it should be in print. What are my thoughts on negative reviews? Well, I have a print background, and for a number of years, periodicals that used to have large review sections have shrunk, and the review sections have gotten tighter and tighter. And there used to be a book review would be chosen because the book's author is important, or the subject of the book is important, or the book has a lot of publicity associated with it. And the point would be to give the reader a fair and honest assessment of the book, which might mean that it was a negative review. As the space went away, periodicals stopped printing negative reviews, because why spend that space on a book that your reviewer decided is not actually worth reading? And so I feel like that has shifted our cultural kind of expectations towards only reading good reviews. And I don't want only good reviews. I want a review that's honest. I need to get to know the reviewer, because a positive or a negative review in the abstract isn't really useful. A review from somebody whose work I have followed over time, so that I can decide if their opinions match mine, if they use criteria that I agree with in doing their review. So I actually do want to see the people I follow reviewing decks honestly. Shouldn't be mean. You can be kind, but I want to hear your actual opinion about the deck, and that might be negative. And hearing that is important. It doesn't mean necessarily that I will not buy the deck or not use the deck, because sometimes what I learn from following somebody is that where we disagree. And so somebody might have a negative review, but they mention things that don't actually bother me, and so then I would go ahead and buy it. Maybe that was a disclaimer too. Anyway, I will put a link to Katey Flowers' original, and if I remember, I'll also put a link to my flip through of Squid Cake and Marshmallow. Thanks for visiting. This is Kenneth. You're watching Common Hawthorne. You know the drill. Subscribe, like, come back later if you'd like. See you later. Bye.